Now, there's a couple of things in that song I have to question. One of the things it said in that song is that we'd all live in freedom if we came here to America. Did everybody who came to America live in freedom? No. If you were brought here from Africa to be a slave, boy, you sure weren't living in freedom. If you're one of those Native Americans I was talking about and they put you on a reservation somewhere, you weren't living in freedom. If you were an Irish or a Chinese immigrant brought here to America as an indentured servant, you know what that means? Oh, an indentured servant is somebody would go to another country and say, hey, you want a free ride to America? What a deal, huh? Except when you got here to America, then they would say, oh, by the way, now you got to work for nothing for a couple of years to pay off your ride to America. And there was nothing you could do about it. So it's kind of like being a slave, except there was a time limit on it at least. Well, it was those Chinese and Irish people who built the railroads here in America, many of them as indentured servants. But how about some of our other freedoms? How about the freedom to vote? Is voting a freedom in America? It's a responsibility, it's a privilege, but you know, it wasn't until 1920 that women got the right to vote. That's not all that long ago. My father was 6 years old when women got the right to vote. So when we talk about living in freedom here in America, you got to remember this freedom thing wasn't automatic. We've been working on this for over 200 years. And you got to do things like voting to keep the freedoms that you have. Now, the other thing it said in that song is people came with what they could carry on their backs. Could you imagine going halfway around the world to a place you never even saw before? You're going to live there for the rest of your life. And all you can take on this trip are the clothes you're wearing and what you can carry. That's it. So if I was coming here to Wisconsin, maybe back when Wisconsin first became a state, anybody know what year that was?
1841.
Close.
1848.
1848. Anyhow, if I was coming here to Wisconsin back in 1848 and I could only bring what I could carry, I probably wouldn't carry one of these big old guitars along. It's too big, it's too heavy, I couldn't afford it in the first place. So if I want to come here and play some music, what do? What do you think?
You take like nature music?
I would take something from nature. I'd have to make something, right? I'd have to go out in the woods and I'd have to get me some wood and a possum. No, I'd eat the possum for supper because I'd be hungry after being out in the woods. But I'd save the possum skin to make the drum head of this banjo, and I'd save his insides. I'd dry them out to make the strings. Now, don't worry, I'm using metal strings on my banjo because I'm not into roadkill here. But I brought along some pictures of things you might need if you were a pioneer here in Wisconsin. And I'm going to put some light up here. And I'm going to need my 5 helpers to come up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on up. Everybody stand behind a picture, okay? Okay, we got 5 people, 5 pictures. Everybody pick up your picture. Now, these are pictures of things that kids drew for me that they thought you might need if you were a pioneer coming here to Wisconsin. And you guys holding the pictures, you can see on the back side there's some words, right? Wait. Don't get ahead of me. Now, when I sing about what's on the front of your picture, then turn your picture around so everybody can sing along, and then leave it turned around because I'm going to come back to it, okay? Here we go. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself a shack, and I did what I could. I call my shack, break my back. That's your part. I call my shack, break my back. But the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself a farm, and I did what I could. I call my farm muscle in my arm, and I call my shack break my back. But the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself a duck, and I did what I could. I call my duck out of luck, and I call my farm muscle in my arm, and I call my shack break my back. But the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself a cow and I did what I could. I call my cow no milk now, and I call my duck out of luck. I call my farm muscle in my arm, and I call my shack break my back. But the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself a wife, and I did what I could. I call my wife joy of my life, and I call my cow no milk now. Call my duck out of luck. I call my farm muscle in my arm, and I call my shack break my back. But the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. Now the kind of music I'm doing today is called folk music. So if I'm singing a folk song, that makes me a folk singer, right? Okay, so if I'm a folk singer singing a folk song, what does that make you? Folks. You're the folks. Okay, so if you're the folks and this is a folk song, that means this song belongs to you, and we can mess around with it and we can make up some new verses. So if I just came here to Wisconsin, I got myself a wife and a cow and a duck and a farm and a shack. What else do you think I need? Maybe I can make a new verse about it. Yes? Food? That's what it sounded like. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself some food and I did what I could. I call my food, it tastes good. And I call my wife, joy of my life. I call my cow, no milk now. Call my duck, out of luck. I call my farm, muscle in my arm. And I call my shack, break my back. But the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. Who's got another one? Yeah. How about some clothes? You're getting pretty chilly otherwise. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself some clothes and I did what I could. I call my clothes full of holes. And I call my food, it tastes good. And I call my wife, joy of my life. I call my cow, no milk now. Call my duck, out of luck. I call my farm, muscle in my arm. And I call my shack, break my back. But the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. Thank you very much. You can lay down the pictures. And thank you for helping. Now, for all you folks that had ideas for other verses to this song, that's all we really have time for right now. But you know what? Because this is folk music, this song belongs to you. And that means that, you know, all those ideas you have for other verses, it's okay to make up new verses. Maybe in your classroom or even at recess or at home. You know how the song goes, right? Well, all you got to do is make up your own brand new verse. And if everybody here made up their own brand new verse, we'd have a song that's, what, about 50 verses long? That'd be pretty impressive.